Now, study tips and advice on how to get the best out of your tutorials and workshops. My first advice is to attend all your tutorials and workshops to complement what has been covered in your lectures. Even though attendance might not be compulsory, some professors choose to give bonus marks to students who attend all their tutorials and workshops as a way to boost the level of student participation in the classes. Therefore, you should be very careful not to miss any classes and immediately inform your subject coordinator through email if you can't do so. My second advice is to never work alone during the class. A common pitfall is that some students choose to isolate themselves from the entire class and try to solve the problems on their own. They don't interact with their tutors and workshop coordinators enough and show very little interest in the class activity essential to the topic being taught. Those students are often lost and would probably not understand what their tutor says because they haven't prepared anything for their class. In this manner, attending both the tutorial and the workshop is just a waste of time. The way to go is, right in your first tutorial and workshop, try to make as many friends as possible and ask them if they wish to become your study partners. I bet they won't refuse you because solving problems with friends is far more interesting than doing it alone. And at the end of each class, go speak to your tutor and introduce yourself so that they can know who you are. It is essential that you start building a rapport with your instructor right in your first session so that you can become more comfortable in interacting with them and asking them questions. However, those things might be easier said than done, especially for students who are non-English speakers. It might be very challenging for you to use a foreign language such as English to interact with other students and your tutor, but you should definitely step out of your comfort zone and do your best to overcome the problem of language barrier in your studies. As commencing students, you should try attending as many social events as possible organized on the university campus and look for native English speakers to practice your English. While working with a study partner is important, it is also recommended that you frequently ask questions to make it easier for you to learn hidden things about a chapter that you might never notice even after completing the tutorial problem sheet. For example, ask your tutor to verify each step of your calculation and ask him why this particular step is crucial in getting the right answer. The truth is, one question always leads to other questions essential to your understanding and mastery of the chapter. Hence, before you attend your tutorials as well as your lectures, always prepare a list of questions, and that should not take more than 15 minutes to do. My last advice is to find the list of learning objectives and outcomes for each tutorial and workshop. Surprisingly, even if you attend all your classes, carefully listen to what your instructor says and answer all the questions properly, you might perhaps still be clueless about the direction in which the lesson is heading. One such example could be that you attend a workshop on computational fluid dynamics and successfully perform the required in-class simulation activity while other students fail to do so. Yet you know neither the significance of what you've just done nor how you will be using it in your project coursework. Therefore, to provide more relevancy to the learning processes, you need to know for each tutorial and workshop, first, the list of topics covered by the questions, for example, computational fluid dynamics with ANSYS simulation. Second, the detailed learning outcomes, for example, to be able to perform the simulation of diffusivity of a gas molecule in a rubbery polymer. And lastly, where to apply what you just learned. For example, the simulation work is required for laboratory practical assessment for this subject. This will definitely make your learning more accurate during the class as you now know what you're after. As conclusion, I would say that attending all your lectures, tutorials, and workshops on a weekly basis can be very tiring, especially when you have a fully planned timetable set up by your university. Thanks to that, you might be tempted to miss some tutorials and workshops, especially when they cover very basic chapters. You might find it to be a waste of time to attend such classes, thinking that you can actually learn and attempt all the questions on your own. However, once you start missing your classes, this can turn into a bad habit where missing the tutorial and workshop becomes normal to you. Then, by the end of the teaching period, you would have accumulated an extra workload of 5 tutorial problem sheets per subject, which should have been covered if you only attended your tutorials and workshops during the semester. Your exam begins next week, and the only way out of this is therefore cramming, which can be very tiring, frustrating, and stressing. More importantly, you end up performing your exam because you did not have time to cover every tutorial problem. So, what you thought to be useless could have actually helped you to learn the subject better, quicker, when more help was available. This is what I call the butterfly effect, where the simple choice of not attending your tutorials and workshop can make you fail an entire subject. The moral of this story is that you should always attend your tutorials and workshops as well as your lectures. The key to making the best out of your tutorial and workshop is to set personal goals that will help you stay connected to what is being done during the classes. Those goals includes: first, I must discover something new today about this chapter even though the subject can be very easy. Second, I want to complete all the tutorial questions within the tutorial time itself with my study buddy without being distracted. Third, I wish to play the teacher and explain everything to my peers. And lastly, I get to find questions to ask the tutor today so that I can feel more confident about myself. Depending on what you are looking for, focusing on those goals during the tutorial and workshop will make your learning definitely more effective and enjoyable. So, as a mantra, you should say to yourself, I got to find something special to do or learn for this tutorial and workshop that is worth both my time and effort attending it. As a summary, attending the tutorial and the workshop will help you build on what you have previously learned during the lecture. As advised, we discussed the reason why first you should attend all your tutorials and workshops, second, not isolate yourself during the class, third, be inquisitive and ask questions, and lastly, find a list of learning objectives for any session. And as mantra, you have to say to yourself, I got to find something special to do or to learn for this class which is worth my time and effort attending it. That was all for study tips and advice for attending your tutorial and workshop. Thank you for your attention. See you in the next video.